What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Snap on Ego. My name is Brad, otherwise known as Bradsifer, and I'm joined by Chris Bootman Bootay. Hello.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we recorded, and we're back.
You already know not
in a different
to.
setting.
You already know not to trust me when it comes to how long it's been. Because as far when you texted me and said, "Hey, we've been really bad about doing a new episode," or whatever, I'm like, "Have we? Has it been that long?"
I was like, "Yeah, I've been like sitting back." So those of you who don't know, Brad was like, "You know what? I hate the meta. I'm taking a little bit of a break." And I'm like, I've been hating it too. I haven't been making the videos. I'm like, I don't want to force it. I was like, Brad doesn't even fucking know what day it is, so who cares?
Well, let me at least. So when it comes to me taking a break, it wasn't necessarily because of the meta. I took a break 2 weeks ago. And it wasn't until literally 2 days ago that I came back to Snap for the first time in about a little over 2 weeks, because I was just burned out from the game in general. It was just like the fact that there was no other way to play beyond ladder and conquest, and I was like, you can only do so much with 12 cards. There's not a whole lot of like deck brewing you can do. A lot of the reasons Mogwai cited is like why he left again.
His main thing is his hate boner over the monetization, though. That's like 90% of his issue.
Right. Well, he said that contributed, but when he said that why he was leaving, he said the main reason was because he had lack of creativity. But that is his niche. Like he likes doing deck building and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's one of the first guys I really started watching and getting introducing deck ideas from. Like, he's actually the first person who introduced me to Bounce. I watched one of his videos. I was like, this is fun, you know? But here, let's touch on this real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But yeah, because we got the roadmap update, and maybe because you're not super happy about it, I don't really give a shit. I'm excited for the Deadpool event. But like, when I keep seeing people say, I thought there was a new mode. I want a new mode. And trust me, I get it. 12 cards is very limiting, but we also have a lot of OTAs, and we also have new cards that come out every single week. So like when you say new mode, like what kind of new modes? Like if you could do anything and get rid of draft mode, you're not allowed to say draft mode. What kind of different way to play would you like? Because that's what it's not clicking for me.
Well, I've said it before. I still want a what's it called? Like a way to like. I want a more competitive mode is the first thing. I want something that's more than just I'll put it this way: give me an alternate mode away from the snap mechanic, because I want to be able to feel rewarded for winning, and right now I don't.
But like, isn't that kind of a big ask of Marvel Snap to give you a mode without the snap mechanic?
Well, I think the only way you can do that is to have a sideboard mode, which I don't see a way the sideboard mode would work with a snap mechanic existing still. I would rather just be a win-loss. I get it. It's Marvel Snap. It's they're not going to do it. I know this is an ask that's not going to happen, but yeah. I find myself playing, and it's like I have to be in that mindset of like understanding, okay, yeah, it's a game about cubes, not about wins, and I'm happy to just retreat a bunch and stuff like that, and just like, you know, but it goes against every fiber of my being from coming from CCGs. It's like, why? I don't like being encouraged to scoop, if that makes sense. I don't, because that's what it is. You're encouraged to retreat. You're encouraged to quit when you feel like, oh, there's a chance they might have this one card, and that doesn't feel good a lot of the time.
Were you ever a poker player at all?
I did a little bit.
Yeah, because like that, like as I hear you say it, like I get it. Like I haven't played Magic since middle school, so I'm not like super into other CCGs, but like with like poker, like I think I'm just used to that, right? Like I'm used to sitting at a poker table for hours on end and just waiting for the right hand. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. So I'm just like, because that's basically retreating, right? Goes around, I'm just like retreat, and then, oh, here's the one I'm playing. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't know if I'm just like conditioned for that or what. Like I kind of get it. Do you think all the Lorcana has kind of like made you look at Snap differently? Like, oh, I miss this type of game?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Lorcana's been scratching that itch of like the real competitive side of me when it comes to like playing stuff like that, like you know, going to Atlanta for like the DLC and you know, doing the content for that. And like, look, I still love Snap. I still like playing it. I still like the game a lot. It's just I I need something to scratch that itch. Or if I don't have that, I just want something that's a bit more casual. That like a draft. I know you said not to say that, but like draft or just limited in general. Like give me like a pack battle. Give me like I queue it, like you and I queue in against one another, and it's like, okay, here's 8 random cards. You have to use these 8 cards, and then you get to choose from like a slight pool of 4 or whatever. You just get to fill in the 4 with whatever. I don't know. And the problem is, and the reason I'm less and less excited for other modes when I think about it, Chris, is why would they? I know they have, you can see on the screen here, I know they have draft mode in concept, right? And also the one below is the previous roadmap, so you can compare on screen. But they have draft mode in concept. And let me ask you, Chris, from Segunder's perspective, why would they make a draft mode? Because a draft mode is a draft mode, or any limited mode for that matter, or any casual mode away from ladder or stuff like that, is harder to monetize. It's
no, that's been the main thing, right? Like I've heard everybody say that, and I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. We're never getting it, but it seems like they're allocating time and resources already to it. So it's like it seems like that was their main block, and they're like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Because they wouldn't even mention it. It's not, I don't think that they're going to put this on in concept and be like, oh, wait, this isn't a moneymaker for us. You know what I mean? So like, I think the fact that it's on the roadmap means they're going to follow through with it. My issue is in concept means it could take any length of time. You know, this might be a 2025 type deal or something. But I will say this, now that I think about it, early last year, it was like right when they released like the tokens and everything like that, like and the new series and everything. When they released the one-on-one battles, I was like, oh, game modes. I'm like, oh man, they're gonna start like pumping these out. And like, I'll never forget, I remember like one of the dev updates, like for a new season, they talked about how internally they do like different things. They'll do like heroes versus villains, or they'll do like limited type modes. Right. And like, I remember misinterpreting that they were working on putting that in the game. And then I realized that it was just like them having fun with it and talking. I'm like, no, that should really be in this. Cause like I remember seeing that. I'm like, oh, they're going to put so many different game modes in here. And they haven't. So like, I get it. Trust me, I get it. But like, I don't know. I do think that the OTAs and the new cards help keep it fresh when we're not living in the hellish meta that we're currently in right now, you know?
Yeah, and like that's the other thing is like metas can devolve into this spot that we're currently in. But I mean, I guess by the time this is live, it has changed. We'll get to that in a moment. But when metas are stale, which I'll give credit to Second Dinner. They do a pretty good job with the frequent balance changes to usually, helping move along certain metas. I do think some cards overstay their welcome. I think Hela has incredibly overstayed their welcome. And I think this update does really absolutely nothing to Hela. I think this is not much of a nerf at all.
Yeah, we'll discuss because I have my theories about it, but yeah, like let me ask you this though. So with other CCGs, right? Like how many top decks are there? Like, so those of you who don't know, Brad just went to this big ass Lorcana tournament in Atlanta. Like, what is the deck diversity like? Like, I think I read somewhere that the person who ended up winning was using like an off meta deck, right? But like, when you go, are there like 3 or 4 decks that everybody's mainly using? Or is it just like every game you went to go watch, because you were just spectating, was it like every game you watched, people were using different decks?
Well, so you have your day 1 crowd and your day 2 crowd, right? So your day 1 crowd, you're going to have a lot more variety of different decks because you have 2,000 something people there competing. So when you have that many people, you're going to have a lot of like non-meta decks. So that's cool. But once day 2 rolls around, you get down to top 64, right? For like your finals and stuff. That's where you see all the meta stuff. And from that pool, you're probably going to see, I think, a variety of like maybe like upwards of 10 different decks for the most part. But what ends up being the majority is going to be a handful, like 3, maybe 4 decks, usually around 2 decks. The goal for any CCG is to have a meta that consists of, more than one top deck, like you have your tier 1 decks, your tier 2 decks, and then your rogue decks is what usually referred to as tier 3. Rogue being like, if you're really good at piloting it, cool, but otherwise it's not really as powerful or up to snuff as everything else. I think in right now in Lorcana, because we have the new set that just came out, and based on that meta, we have, I think, 4 top decks, maybe 3. So you have, but the problem is there's overlap with a lot of these decks. So, like, for example, 2 of the decks are item-based decks. So you have Ruby or just red-blue control, which plays a lot of items and stuff, and like just like spot removal and things like that. And then you have blue steel control, and the blue package is the ramp/item package. So there's overlap there. It's just what the secondary color is. And the other side of it is you have Emerald Steel Bucky and Emerald Amethyst Bounce, and then you have purple red control. So you have a lot of the overlap with the bounce package and the purple stuff. You have a lot of the removal package and the red stuff overlapping 3 different decks, and then the green package is all discard based, overlaps 2 decks as well. So while there are 4 or 5 what I would consider top decks, maybe top 3 of those are really the top, being like your 2 emerald decks and then your ruby red deck, or sorry, your red sapphire deck. There's a lot of shared stuff there, so it's kind of hard to determine like how healthy you think that is. But again, Lorcana's a weird one because it's a newer game, so we're only entering set 5. Like they're doing set 5 spoilers right now on their live stream, or they just ended, whatever. So looking at Magic for a game that's older, for a comparison in that regard, I would say at any given time for most formats, there's a pretty decent variety of like what's considered like a top decks. When you have 1 or 2 decks dominating a format, usually in Magic, unless there's niche circumstances like Legacy, where there's certain decks that just kind of stick around forever and they're part of the format, usually Wizards will interject and like ban something.
Yeah, but that's like the other thing though, where I've heard former or current Magic players say that they like that about Snap, is because with like something like Magic, like a physical card game, it could take either a really long time to like adjust the meta, or B, they like ban cards that like you got and were playing. Like, remember we did one episode where you're showing me like, hey, here's like thousands of dollars worth of cards I can't even use anymore. You know what I mean? So it sounds like there's like give and take and stuff like that. I just like comparing it, because when I see people complain about certain things with Marvel Snap, I'm just like, okay, but what are other ones like? You know what I mean? Like, for example, when people like bitch about their job, I'm like, okay, but you gotta choose your battles, because certain things you're gonna deal with at literally every job. Does that make sense? So if there's something that's like across the board in like a lot of card games, then we kind of got to look at like, okay, well, this game does this better, but this game does this better, and blah 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 blah. But well, okay, last question before we jump into like more Marvel Snap stuff. But do you think it feels like those other card games like Lorcana or Magic feel different just because of the larger decks? So the games seem different and like more different things are happening. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, just the simple fact that the battlefield in Lorcana or on Magic are unlimited, meaning there's no limit to how many cards you can have. There's no spacing requirements, and it's not just 3 lanes. That makes the game a lot more open-ended to have various different lines of play, and it can make games evolve into something that's, different every time. Now, a lot of them end up being similar, structure of like, especially when you have 2 top decks that you're familiar with and you know what they're going to play or what they're going to do, sure, but the minute details are where, the difference is going to occur. I think Snap is more similar in a way to Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're comparing it to a TCG, just because Yu-Gi-Oh! Does have a fixed board state. You only have 5. You have 5 creature zone, you have 5 spell trap zone, then you have 2 of your link zone as well. So, and those 2 link zones are shared, one for you, one for me kind of thing. And then there's a field spell zone. So those are all limited on what you can do. So I guess, but then even then, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a bit more diverse with its deck construction and stuff like that. But I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just a broken game entirely. But yeah, I don't know. It's just yes, there's a big difference in that, but it's not just because of the deck size. It's because the board state and the way the games function, and the very nature of Snap being, you can only play 4 cards per lane. You have 3 lanes. There, what can you really do? Like, how much can you go beyond just I have more power?
Yeah, maybe I'm like, my perspective is so much different because Snap is like the card game that I've been playing. Like, I played a little DC Dual Force and just wasn't a fan, and clearly a lot of other people weren't, because the issue with that game was there was like one deck that dominated for just like ever, and then by the time they adjusted stuff, like I was just completely uninterested. I was just like not interested. Like, people were trying to get me back in, I was just like, nah. But anyways, let's jump into the current new cards. What are your thoughts about Gilgamesh Season Pass card? 5/7 +1 for every card that has added power.
Yeah, so Gilgamesh, if I could see him. Yes, not whatever. Gilgamesh
they always put it on a different page.
I know. He's cool. I think the problem is and why people are incorrectly thinking he's bad. Even though we'll see today that he got a little bit of love, a la like a Hercules, quick adjustment.
This is probably easier. Let's just talk about his buff right now, and then we'll skip him when we get into the OTA. Let's just talk about his buff so we can properly discuss him.
He's a 5/9 now, right?
Yeah, so they moved him up to a 5/9. So same ability, +1 power for each of your other cards in play with increased power. So they're moving him from a 5/7 to a 5/9. And I think he was data mined as like a 5/2 +2 power, something like that. And my math isn't great, so I'm not sure how much of a difference that is.
I mean, a +2 goes up significantly faster than +1. So
yeah,
because think about it, the difference between 5/7 and a 5/2 is only 3 buffs of a difference to catch up back to where you were, to go to a 5/8 to surpass where you were. So if you have, and then every incremental buff beyond that is double what the 5/7 buff would be.
Yeah.
So 5/9's cool. I really think this is a card that is actually like pretty powerful and what it can do, just because it interacts with things like Blue Marvel and stuff like that. The reason it's being perceived as bad is because it just goes in bad decks. It goes in Zoo, it goes in Patriot, but like, why would you play it in Patriot when you have better finishers?
Well, like here's my thing. Like, I did not start hating this Professor X Cannonball meta until the new season. Usually the new season, especially now that we get 2 new cards at the start of the new season, there's just such like diversity and people trying and doing interesting things. And Gilgamesh decks are designed to be in a Zoo style deck where you are filling the board. You're using things like, like Blue Marvel and maybe like even Shanna and like Khazar and stuff, and you're filling the fucking board. And like instantly I was like, oh, well, Cannonball makes this a piece of shit, right? They lock down 1 and then they kill my most powerful thing on this lane. So
which is typically your Gilgamesh.
Yeah, that's when I was like, yeah, because you usually have priority too, so they're gonna kill your fucking Gilgamesh. And that's when I was like, fuck this. I am so upset about this meta. So we have some good news when we go over the OTA. But yeah, I do think he's a fun, interesting card. And I don't know, like, I'm trying to think. I just haven't played him since last week. But I remember like just enjoying the deck. Like, it felt like, I know what you're saying, like the Zoo decks still don't get too big, but they do. There are some tools, right? Like, we have Mockingbird who can slide into Zoo decks. You know what I mean? So like that gives you a little bit more height and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm happy to go back and start playing it again. We'll see how this buff does. But yeah, I was excited about this card for like 5 minutes until I started running into Professor X again. So so everybody, so here's what they say. This is a fairly fast turnaround to make on a new card, but the low cube rate of the card was in particular a large concern for us. We always want to ensure that the season pass card feels like a great addition to a player's collection, but its performance thus far hasn't met that bar. So yeah, they're always trying to make sure, because the season pass card is by far going to be the most popular card that everybody gets. You get the most value out of it. So like some people are like, oh, it's too strong, but they want it to be like one of the most competitive cards every single season. Kind of fuck that up with like Phoenix Force, but anyways, they're trying.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's just Gilgamesh is essentially a Devil Dino for Zoo decks. That's how I view it. And that's not a bad thing. It's just we'll see if there's a card up ahead if it releases as is, a Marvel Boy. We'll see if that helps Zoo decks a bit more. That one's supposed to be a 3/3 that says it's not even an on reveal or an ongoing, it's a triggered ability. At the end of each turn, you give +2 to 3 of your 1-drops. So that's going to be really good. But then the problem with that is I think that's just going to be better in decks that don't play Zoo. Like, think of Haivo, right? It plays Sunspot, Nebula, and Misty Knight. Just play Marvel Boy in that, and then buff, up to 3 of those, or just one of them, especially if it's Sunspot. That lets you just float for your She-Hulk and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens, I guess. But yeah, Gilgamesh, better than people let on, but hopefully this gives him some love. Yeah. It's just bad decks.
Yeah. So, Thena, did you get Thena? Have you played with her at all?
Yep. So I was asked about Thena on Can't Stop Snapping last week, and I got absolutely flamed in the comment section of our video because I said, look, I recognize that she has some power. I recognize that she can get above rate pretty easily. But I think she's more of a symptom of the meta of why she's good, and not that she's actually that good in a vacuum. So I think she's actually a pretty decent pass and a skip for a lot of people. People telling you that she's a must-buy are wrong, and I'm not overly impressed with her. I think she's fine. I think she's okay. I still stand by that, by the way. Look, I recognize you can get her to a 213 and stuff, right? That's great. You could also get Angela to a 213. Or a 212, I guess, because it's even numbers. I recognize that Thena can get big. Yeah. But because of the fact that she is A, a thing that can get reduced in cost by Ravonna, and B, good in the deck that runs Ravonna, like Professor X, and just as good to put underneath Professor X to scale, she is a symptom of that, in addition to, hey, Chris, what cards are you not seeing run as much? Shadow King and Shang-Chi. Because what does Shadow King do against Professor X deck? Nothing. What does it do against and again, I know I say nothing. Technically, yes, it hits Thena, it hits Sage and stuff like that, but they're usually behind a Professor X, right?
Yeah.
As well as no one's running Shang-Chi because the highest thing in the Professor X deck is Cannonball, and then you're going against Hela as your other option, and Hela resurrects it probably after you play it because you have priority because Hela's trying to play behind. So there are 2 cards that are just really bad right now, and I think once the Professor X meta kind of goes away, Thena becomes opened up again to Shang-Chi and gets opened up against the Shadow King, which makes her a little bit worse.
Yeah, no, I think like one of the decks I've been running with her has been Luke Cage in it, but also like so Thena. I was actually going to skip Thena. Like, Thena just seems like the kind of card I would want to play because I love playing decks with smaller cards that scale up and get big. But I was like, this condition seems too difficult. Like, how often am I playing 2 cards, right? And then I caved. This is like one of the first times I caved before even watching a bunch of people play it. I was just looking at my thing. I'm like, man, I got like 20 spotlight keys. Fuck it. Took me 4 keys to get this fucking asshole. Anyways. I'm satisfied with the card, but like you said, I think she's fine. And here's my hot take of the episode. Are you ready? Are you ready? And hopefully this changes with the Professor X nerf we're about to talk about. I don't think you run the Ravonna with this. I don't. I think it fucking complicates her so much that is unnecessary, right? When you don't play it, like I remember the first day or two, before people were doing it so much with Professor X, like you weren't playing with her with Ravonna, and the curve just, it felt a lot better and you were buffing her a lot more, right? Now when I play her with Ravonna, I'm like, okay, do I want to buff Thena or do I want to get more cards out? Does that make sense? Like I just, earlier this morning, I was playing a game, I got like fucking Elysium, and I was playing a deck with a bunch of small cards. I'm just like, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is a very dumb decision that I have to make, you know? So I think if you just play without, Ravonna in the deck, you have a lot more options where she's getting buffed and you're putting down some more big utility cards, if that makes sense, you know?
Oh, I get you. I don't know. I think it's fine either way. I think this is a card that you don't play on 2. I think she's better to play on 3. I think the best home for her is still anything with Kitty Pryde, because the best curve, in my opinion, is, Kitty Pryde on 1, get a hit on it. Turn 2, play Angela. Turn 3,
Yeah.
Thena, Kitty Pryde.
Yeah.
Like, that's your best thing, because she counts herself. Again, I recognize she's good. She's a good card, but she's not this S tier card that everyone's trying to make her out to be. I think she might be one of the most overhyped cards in a while because of how good she is in a Professor X show.
Yeah, I think she's okay. But yeah, what do you think is going to be the best card this month?
Trying to remember what did I tell Glazer when he asked? I think I said it was going to be Fastos was the best card, just because it has the cost reduction and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm sorry, because technically this season, even though it is July, the first week of July is still this season. Oh, I said it's our turn.
Arsham?
Yeah, Arsham. Yeah, sorry, not our turn.
Yeah,
the artist. Yeah, I think it's that. So let me explain why I think it's this, because it's a little weird to look at. So one of my complaints, like I said earlier, with Marvel Snap is the fact that, sometimes I just don't want to snap. I don't want to do that part of the game because I want to just see games through. But thinking about Arsham in the lens of what snap is, which is just retreat a lot. You're okay with having a middle ground win rate as long as you get a really good cube rate. That's what this guy is. This is a card that's like, okay, you get +1 max energy to start the game. You put a bunch of ramp stuff or ramp targets in your deck. You put Loki in your deck. You put Quinjet in your deck. And when you draw well, it's a snap, and it's one that you're probably going to win because you just have the nuts. And then when you don't have it, you just leave for a cube. This might be the best snappable card we've ever seen for the game. I really think this is the best one this month.
I really just enjoy card generation, and when they don't know what your output range is, right? Like I love the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. decks and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for them. I do think Athena might be one of the better cards, but I don't know if she's going to be the best. I'm curious to see how this all pans out. And did you get the new card this week, Cersei?
I haven't played with her yet, but I got her. I got her on 1 key. I was like, oh God, thank you.
Yeah, no, finally I broke my streak of getting a card in less than 3 keys. Most of them have been 4 keys, but this time it took me 2, and I was like fucking satisfied. But yeah, she's better than I was thinking, and I did a little thread last night about her because she, I think, is the most underrated card this month. I don't think she's amazing. If you're listening, I don't think you should go run out and use your resources. But all day yesterday, I kept seeing people, because every week I put out a poll like, hey, are you getting this card? And people no, I hate Tarnax, so I'm not getting Cersei. And I'm just like, are you stupid? This card is nowhere near Tarnax. Tarnax, okay, the game of Marvel Snap, you have to win 2 out of 3 lanes. Tarnax is saying, you need to win this lane, and you have absolutely no control over what happens here. Do you know what I mean? That is wildly different than saying, I get to choose whether or not I'm playing Cersei. You see? Just right there, that is so much different. But also, what I really enjoy about Cersei in Annihilus decks is making your opponent guess, are they going to flip this Void, or are they going to Cersei it? I love that, because a lot of people just go and they're like, oh shit, I got to fill up this right lane so they don't flip it. And then you just go, and just let RNG take the wheel. And I like that mind game with her. So I don't think she's just the most amazing card of the season, but people are not evaluating her properly if you think she's just another Tarnax.
Yeah, I think she's an A-tier card. I think she's got a very good body. A 5/7 is a pretty good rate. And the ability to transform the Void, especially have another tool to kind of get rid of that, where we've seen Lady Deathstrike, Valkyrie, and stuff like that be your alternate options in those decks. Cersei's another great alternate option, especially when you look at all the 5 costs. How many of them actually really hurt you? You only think of Modok as like the real option. That like, oh, that's the one you don't want to hit. Well, you could hit things like Iron Man. Like getting a -8 swapped in for an Iron Man is an incredible power swing, which is why I think she's better as a potentially a turn 6 play than a turn. Also, I've always said I hate debris in junk decks because I think it's just bad, because it's bad. It's bad where it's easy to mess up and not play around it properly and like lose because of it by messing up your own board space. On top of which, it's also bad of like, even when she does what you want her to do, you just let your opponent say, okay, I'm leaving. Like, because you've locked them out. So let's do that. But I will say, I am intrigued by debris in a junk deck with Cersei now, because you actually have a way to make your rocks a bit more effective. Valkyrie was like the closest thing you could do in that sense, but you're also affecting your opponent's stuff, which sometimes it's not what you want to do in certain matchups.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like the idea of Cersei with debris. So there's a lot of play to her. I think she's really cool.
Yeah, that's the other thing I forgot to mention too. And the other difference in Tarnax is she's upgrading the card. She's taking it to the next cost, which is often more powerful too. So like, if you're relating it to Tarnax, like, you need to quit eating paint chips. All right, just stop it. Now, a couple things though. One, Cersei is going to get nerfed as soon as Arshan comes out, because right now your 6 costs do not change. But so right now you can play Cersei on Wong, and she'll upgrade things to a 6 cost. Once Arshan releases, she'll automatically turn any 6 into a Arshan, right? And
why does that
I don't know
matter?
how many. Because like, you know what it's good. Like, okay, so turning a 5 into a 6, you can have a massive power swing, right? I might turn it into an infinite. I could turn it into a red hawk. With Arshan, if you get into that situation, or you're not going to be able to play it in a Wong deck, basically. You know, you're not really going to be transforming 6 cost cards. But like, the reason I'm mentioning this, because I was playing a bunch of a negative Cersei deck yesterday, and it was kind of fun putting her on Wong. But that's going to change a little bit. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's not like a super big scenario, but one thing I do hope everybody knows is that she's like a mini Luke Cage. She gets rid of afflicted cards, which is kind of weird. That's a weird interaction, don't you think? If your cards get afflicted and you Cersei them, the affliction goes away. Kind of think it should stay.
Yeah, it is transforming. So on one hand, I can see it making sense because you're transforming into something else, so all the status stuff goes away. The other hand, I can see it because it's transforming, the status stuff stays. So I don't know, it's a weird one. I guess it depends on Second Dinner's opinion on like, should they change this eventually, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. But anywho, let's jump into this gigantic OTA. This is gonna shake some shit up.
Yep, we'll start with Professor X as the big change here. So one thing I've been saying is like, hey, make him just a 5/2. That way he doesn't work with Ravonna anymore. Well, they did that, but they also did a secondary option. So the old version is a 5/1 ongoing lockdown this location. Cards cannot be added or removed, etc. Now it says 5/2 ongoing moving is the only way to add or remove a card from here. So now move cards like Vision, like Nightcrawler, like Nocturne, can enter into Professor X lane. So Silky Smooth could actually be an option to counter Professor X, or we're actually giving a big buff to move cards here. Now, the question is do you think people are still going to play the Professor X deck after this?
No. I think people are going to try for 5 minutes, right? The other thing too that's important to know about this is cards can also switch sides. All right. So if they Professor X your Void lane, you could still Annihilus your Void. So like,
is that confirmed?
Yeah. Glenn confirmed it.
Nice.
And yeah, so that's huge. Like, so yeah, he's taking a massive nerf. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, is he unplayable now? Like, does he do anything you want him to do? Especially with how popular just even Nocturne is, right? Like, is he going to be unplayable? I don't know. Like, I could see them reverting. some of this?
Yeah. The only thing is like that you have to preemptively put down a move card, and now that he's back to a 5 cost, that means turn 5 is like it. So, in one hand, I can see this as like a sneaky, not buff, but I don't know how else to put it. So before, if you ramp him on 4, right? I can now, if with this effect, be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna play Vision on 5, and I can move that Vision into that lane. Well, now since Professor X is coming down on 5 more often, then you have to commit to playing Vision that turn, or you have to commit to playing Nocturne and stuff like that turns earlier. Where if you don't, those move cards don't matter because they have to exist for a turn first before you can move them. So I don't know if that's going to be as big of a deal as we think. I could see him being still somewhat okay. The big issue, though, is this just removes the Cannonball interaction.
Yeah, no, thank God.
Because now Cannonball moves things into the Professor X lane.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to see... Hold on, let me just check. Let me check right now. I'm just going to do all ranks. Let me see what Professor X's play rate, just so we can see how much it changes. Professor X. Where you at, bro?
Honestly, I don't even know why they changed Cannonball then. They should have left Cannonball alone at a 5'8", because they made him a 5'7". Spoiler.
Yeah, but yeah, spoiler. What do you think Professor X's play rate is right now across all ranks?
I'm going to say 28%.
21.6.
Okay.
I wonder if it's more at the higher ranks, though.
It might be.
Let's go 70 to 100 plus. 24%.
Okay.
But yeah, anyways, yeah, I'm curious to see how much that drops. And yeah, maybe people still figure out something, but like, yeah, it's a massive buff to move decks. I'm thinking of just like even Storm decks that run some move cards, like Nightcrawler being able to get in there is huge now too, you know? But if anything, this might be a massive like psychological nerf that just takes a toll for a while and then maybe someone revisits him later on, you know? Because yeah, Professor X also with the buffs that we got from, or not even the buffs, but the changes we got to Thanos decks, a lot of people running fucking Professor X Thanos decks because if you have Soulstone, you just drop your Thanos in there. So anywho, well, it'll be interesting to see. And then next one was Cannonball. We just told you. Cannonball got nerfed by 1 point of power. Not sure if it was necessary, but whatever. Okay, now Hela. Hela. So Hela is now on reveal. Resurrect all cards you discarded to random random locations with -2 power. So basically they said like, you know, they tried to do the Leech thing to nerf Hela, but Leech kind of screwed up a bunch of other decks. You know, they've been looking about this. They've been talking about it a lot. They know a lot of people love Hela, blah, 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 blah. So, but they also say importantly, so today we're taking action very similar to what we did with Galactus and adding functionality that will create a better balance style on the card itself. So you were saying you do not think this is going to do anything to Hela.
Correct. Because what do you bring it back with Hela? Things that are 14, 20 power, you know, 19 power, right? Oh, wow, my Infinite's 18 power now.
Yeah, if anything, yeah, I don't think, well, I don't think when you're losing to a Hela deck, you're like, oh shit, I lost by 2 points, right? Like they're putting like 32 power. They got like a Death and an Infinite on the lane or something. What I'm hoping for this one, I'm hoping that it is a psychological nerf. I'm hoping it's one of those things people look at and they say, oh, she sucks now. But I'll say this, like, since we entered the Professor X Cannonball Hell, I don't give a fuck about Hela. I don't give a shit. Like, just the whole Cannonball Professor X thing just took all of my attention away from anything else that's even semi-annoying, you know? So yeah, I don't know if this will change much, but the next change, Ebony Blade, might nerf Hela a little bit though, because a lot of people are playing a Black Knight version. So Ebony Blade got changed from can't be destroyed and his power can't be reduced to ongoing can't be destroyed. So now the power can be reduced, which is phenomenal. You like that? Do you like the Ebony Blade change?
I do, but I'm not sure why they did it. They say it's impactful to Hela, but like they said that's not why they're making it. I've been happy to see Black Knight find plenty of homes in a soft start, but decided they give him complete protection. Interference is unnecessarily strong. I agree with that. It is unnecessarily strong, but
yeah, it's kind of crazily strong.
But like, was he overperforming, or do they just feel like, yeah, this isn't where this aligns with our philosophy? I don't know. It feels like a weird timing for it. I'm fine with it. I thought it should be one or the other. And now this actually gives a reason to play Shadow King, stuff like that. But this is a card that already wasn't seeing that much play, I feel like. And
it's in the top non-Modoc Hela decks. So, you know, because here's my thing. That card has a lot of cube equity because you can snap on it so early on, right? Like you can snap with your Black Knight on turn 1, and then I have to guess, are you about to discard, a death that's maybe a little bit more manageable, or are you about to discard an Infinite and have 2 20 power things? Does that make sense? So like, I think now that I could at least Shadow King it is good, because I love playing Shadow King. But what's weird to me is in the notes they said, and it wasn't trivial to let the blade freely dodge locations like negative zone either. Like, because they mentioned like Shang-Chi, they don't mention Shadow King, but then they mentioned negative zone. I'm like, I've never been like, oh, if only negative zone would have taken down everybody.
I would say Quantum Realm is a better one to, if they were going to name drop a location, say Quantum Realm, because that one I'm like, oh wow, they just played their blade onto it, and that's a free lane for them. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm happy. Like indestructible, cool. Reduced power, cool.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'm interested in. I want to kind of go back to the Sarah control Black Knight list, because
which one was that?
It's the one that ran Sarah and Zabu, and it ran like Enchantress, Shang-Chi, and stuff like that. You don't run Zabu anymore still, but also that's the other thing that this OTA is not including is any Zabu changes, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I wonder they took him back to the shop for a lot of changes. I don't know what's happening.
But being able to treat it more like a tempo-y, like Sarah control thing, or like maybe even you do play Zabu, you just play Zabu on 5 or something. My thinking is like, now you can go Black Knight, whatever cost reduction you want for the last turn, and then you want to be able to play both your Blade and Ghost Rider on 6 to dodge whatever, and you can still have the chance to pull out the Infinite and like have like a 420 blade.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think it's gonna be like, I don't think people are gonna look at this and be like, oh, Ebony Blade's unplayable, because I right now I don't think nearly enough people are even playing Shadow King, to be honest with you. Maybe they will a little bit, but like
I'm telling you, that's what I said earlier. That's what I saw Athena. That's why Athena's gonna be worse. Athena's a symptom of the meta we're in, with Professor X pretty much going. I guarantee you, we're gonna see that Professor X go from 21% to 6%.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's going to be massive.
And so that makes Shadow King is going to come back into the fray. That means Silky Smooth is going to come back into the fray. Silky Smooth might be the best home for Thena now, even.
Well, I think you're just going to have to. You're going to have to run. You're gonna have to run Luke Cage with Thena. Like if you're playing the package of like Thena and Angela and Kitty Pryde and even like what's her face? What's my girl with the shotguns? From the
Elsa.
Elsa, yeah. I think you have to run Luke Cage.
Yeah,
I think that's what you gotta do. What was next?
Red Hulk.
So he is changing from a 6'9 plus 4 power to a 6'10 plus 3 power.
So this is what it should have been at the start.
Yeah, probably.
Still going to be good. It's still on average going to be a 619 because usually you get half your games, half the game is how many activations you get typically on Red Hulk. So 3. That means he's going to be a 619. Even if you only get 2 and he's a 616, that's still better than Giganto. That's still better than Destroyer.
And it's only 1 point off of freaking Infinite, where you have to skip an entire turn just to play him out.
Lots of you get 3, but yeah. So I think either 16 or 19 power is still really good. This is what he should have been to start. We'll see if they find this to be a comfortable spot for him. It doesn't scale nearly as well as it did, but I still think it's going to be, it's possible it still might get another adjustment.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I still think he's gonna have a similar play rate because it's not too big of a nerf. But we already talked about Gilgamesh. So Captain America, I think this one's weird. So Captain America, they recently changed him to a 3/2. Give all your other ongoing cards here +2, and then they're bumping him up to a 3/3. Now, the only, I think this is a nothing burger, but the funniest thing about this is all the people who've been playing him in Cerebro too.
That's such a scam. Why are you doing that? I understand. It's just way too narrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the play rate on it got super high, and the win rate and cube rate just never did anything. It was just worse than other versions of Cerebro 2. So maybe they're just doing Cerebro 2 players a favor with this. So
Well,
will be in?
Now you can run them in C3.
Yeah.
And just make it even worse. I can't wait for someone to try that and realize that it's bad, because it just doesn't work. But someone's gonna be like, oh, finally.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make a huge lane though if you basted like an Iron Man and Mystique, then just put it on there. That'd be insane.
Oh yeah, for that, yeah, sure. Just it wouldn't be a C pick.
Yeah. So Captain America, Shanna, whatever. I think there's a fun change, and I think this is great because they buffed Gilgamesh too. But anyway, Shanna is going from a 3/2 to a 3/4. They didn't even try with the 3/3. They just said, "Yo, we're giving our girl two whole points of power," and I'm like, "I'll fucking take it," because I was playing some Shanna in our in Gilgamesh decks, so I'm excited about this.
She's gonna be on average of 310, because usually the average power she puts out is 6, in addition to her own. So 310 is gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. I think this OTA just I'm just so happy. So many things are gonna change, and I'm just so happy because so those of you who know, usually I'm infinite by now. Brad's usually infinite by now. I just haven't been playing. I'm sitting in the 90s, and I'm just I don't want to touch the ladder. I just go into conquest mode, dick around with different decks, so that way if I lose, I can just fucking leave and just go into the next one. I'm just so happy that things are just being shaken up so much. It'll be fun. And then lastly, we have our boy Stegron. They keep trying to make this guy work. Oh, I didn't realize they buffed him a point of power as well. So Stegron was a 4/6. Old one was 4/6. Move an enemy card from here to another location. Completely random. Totally random. Don't know where you're moving him. Now he's a 4/7. Move an enemy card here, one location to the right.
Yeah,
love it.
I like this. It gives actual agency of what you're doing. You know where things are going to go, so you can actually do proper math. It's not random. So this is just a strict buff. Yes, it is you never play him in the right lane for the most part. He's always going to be in the middle or left lane, but you now have definitive math to do. You just go, okay, cool. I'm gonna. Now there's still randomness on which one you move, right? Of if there's multiple cards in that lane, but you have at the most 4 different things of math to do, right? And you're like, okay, cool. I know that it's going to be one of these cards. Let's try to, what's the highest card that can move out of this lane? Cool. I just got to make sure I can beat the highest card that moves. That's it.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
It's, now that I think about it though, it's it's not going to be as strong, but I can kind of see it kind of like the old Arrow, right? where you pretty much just sacrifice a lane and then you move shit. You're like, okay, I'm winning these, I move this. Now you could just sacrifice the right lane, you know what I mean? And now you know, like middle or something, you're just automatically just boop. Like if it's like a close lane, just targeted moves is great. Like I think people are going to realize that since there's been so much cannonball, but knowing for a fact that you're doing something with a move is fantastic. So I'm excited. It's gonna be interesting because I could see him being good with like just like a good like 2-cost card, so you can go like boom boom. You know what I mean? Like maybe he moves into the mover deck, the Silky Smooth deck. Play him with Silk. I don't fucking know. But
well, also, this is a sneaky buff for both Craven and what's it called, Kingpin, because now you can definitively move something into their lanes.
Oh shit! That Kingpin though, I got this Venomized Kingpin that sees no play. We're gonna do some stuff. Yeah, you just put Kingpin over there because that makes it a little bit better, right? Even though you don't know what card you're moving, you know for a fact that you're taking away some of its power.
That would make Stegron a 4/11 if you aim into a Kingpin lane.
Fuck yeah! Oh, okay, we're doing it. We're making that happen. Yeah, I'm super excited. Stegron's always been a card of...
No, it's a 4/9, right? Because it's -2.
Wait, does Kingpin give -3 now?
What is Kingpin saying?
Type him in the thing.
-2. So he's half of his tower. So yeah, he'd be a 4/9 still.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a bad rate. Not a bad rate at all. So yeah, I hope Stegron gets some much needed love. Like something I said on Twitter the other day, the only good thing that's come out of this Professor X Nightmare meta is people playing Supergiant. She's such a great card. So I've enjoyed that.
I do love Supergiant.
But since we have some minutes and we never talked about it, let's go over the last cards to be released this month. We already talked about Arishem, so let's talk about Makari and Fastos. So Makari, those of you who don't know, she was a 3/3. They did a last-minute buff to her. She's releasing as a 3/4.
Yep.
So what do you think about Makari? Are you getting her? Oh, you get all of them, don't you?
I mean, yeah, but like... she's either going to be obscenely broken or she's going to be ass. There's no in between. In my thinking, even with her as a 3/4 now, I think she has one home and she's already cuttable in that home, and that's Silver Surfer. Because, yes, she's a free card, but what are you cutting her for, right? So if I go and look at do they have decks? They do. Deck meta. Give me that. Let me go find a surfer list. Here's Sarah Surfer. Okay, cool. Amazing. Tell me, Chris, what are you cutting from this list?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the main thing I've thought about her since like seeing her, you know, like what, like maybe magic, maybe, you know, that extra turn we can get out extra card, like,
well, if you're cutting magic, you should move away from the Absorbing Man Wong thing entirely, because that's part of the reason you run magic is like magic.
Yeah, that one specifically is like the hazmat version though. But I guess that's the #1 version I'm looking on Untapped too. So yeah, I don't really know, but I don't play much Surfer anyways. But yeah, Makari and Thena were gonna be the only 2 cards I skipped this month. I ended up getting Thena. I'll see about Makari, but like I still don't think I'm gonna get her. Like I'm being more picky. Like I've skipped a few cards recently. I didn't get Sasquatch, I didn't get Namora, and it was mainly because like Namora, I'm just like, that doesn't fit my style of play. Like now I'm like looking more at like my style of play. Like a card's power has to be so much that if I just don't like playing it, the power has to be so good that I do. And I don't see Makari doing that. Like every single deck I can think of putting her in, I'm like, what am I cutting for? Like, is she worth taking away a card that might have an ability that's very useful? You know, like think about it. Do I want to slot Makari in for like Nocturne? 1000% no. Like, so I don't know if I'm going to be doing that. So We'll see. We'll see what happens with her. But yeah, right now she's a pass for me. Then lastly, we got Fastos, who you said, yeah, I think he was one of my top cards as well.
Yeah, and then another thing with the Silver Surfer conversation, this is another card that you want to play in Silver Surfer. So
yeah,
so when this card comes out, for all of you that are going to get Makari, how are you going to fit both this and Makari in the list? And also, like, yeah, getting her +2 power would be really good. It's a 3/6 for free. Cool. Ends up being a 3/8 with Surfer. But again, what are your cuts? Because you already have to decide what you're cutting for Fastos, because Fastos is virtually free in Surfer. There's really no reason to not run it. And honestly, I actually do wonder if it's Sarah.
Possibly.
Do you move away from Sarah just to play this Fastos?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely could be. Yeah, the one good thing about Sarah, I never play Surfer decks. I never liked them. But the one good thing about Sarah is you don't have to make the decision, because turn 5 with a Surfer list can get very weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many 2 costs do you have? You know, so it's just like, do I run 1/3? Like, what am I doing? So, but I could see that being a possibility. Because I always like, when I was playing Surfer, I do like a Goose in a Surfer deck and stuff like that, to block a lane. But yeah, like, I'll tell you this. I forgot who it was. I don't know if this is a wide opinion, but I did see some people saying like, oh, Fastos is going to be so overhyped, or so overhyped and stuff like that. Like, I was like a Ravonna naysayer just because she was releasing around the time of Mobius. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know how Ravonna had so much hype behind her, and Fastos is not like double or triple that, right? Like, first off, it's every card in your deck, right? And they're either getting a -1 or a +2. Both of those are very, very good. Very, very good. You know? Yeah. Like, I do not, like, this is the card I've been most looking forward to all season long. So, because I can see him fitting into a lot of decks, not just Surfer. Surfer, I think, is going to be really good. It's going to piss me off because I don't play Surfer, but I can see him being good just for a lot of different things.
You probably play him in an Arsham deck too.
Yeah, yeah, go crazy on all your random cards in there.
Yeah. I like. Maybe this actually finds its way into Loki as well.
Into Loki, yeah, possible.
Well, because you want your top decks to be good after you Loki, right? This makes your top decks way better.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm pumped on this card. I don't know if it'll be the best, but like, I think it is up there. It is like one of the top ones for me. I will be shocked if this is not one of the best cards of the season. So
yeah, anyway. I think it's gonna be a good month. The next couple of months are really good.
Yeah, they're doing good with cards. It's annoying. What do you think about real quick? What do you think about the Hydro Bob change from the data mines? Did you see that?
It's a 1/4. I mean,
yeah, they changed it from like a 2/5 or a 2/4 to a 1/4, and now it used to move after every turn. Now it only moves if somebody snaps.
Yep.
So
I think it's more interesting of an implication of what else is to come, because now that they are messing with design around the snap mechanic, I think that makes things more interesting. I think he's going to be whatever. Like, you play him as a 1/4 for tempo or whatever. He can be good in like a cool zoo deck. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not particularly excited for him. I'm more excited about what he implies.
Yeah. Do you think this OTA is gonna make you want to play a little bit more?
Yeah, I said I'll play when the OTA hits, and I'm going to stick with that. I can actually kind of do a little bit of thinking and tinkering with what we expect to see as the meta. I'm interested to see what ends up being the top lists. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm just excited. I think we're going to have at least a few days of just a really big, just a ton of deck diversity, you know? And that's just like my favorite thing. My favorite thing is just when people are testing stuff, I'm testing stuff, and there's not just like, I'm running into something and I'm just like, okay, well, if I see like 2 cards from them, I got to leave if they hit this, you know, sequence of cards. So I am very, very happy. So yeah, anyways, great episode. Glad to be back. And maybe I'll actually make some videos now. Yep. We're never wrong. And they know that. They know that. All right. Fantastic. We'll see you in the next one.